Leaving Ephraia in the cold of the early morning felt entirely different to Zorvit compared to the last time he left the elven capital. Last time, he and Tegan had left together in the warm light of the sunset. Though they had been uncertain and anxious as they set out that first time, there had been a sense of hope in their resolve that was conspicuously lacking now. Now, he was alone. Or, at least, he would be traveling alone. King Reuven was seeing him off, like last time, though his expression was much more dark now in contrast to how it had been then. It had not been so long ago, but it may as well have been in another life for how distant it all seemed. "They'll only be about an hour behind you, for the most part," the king was saying as Zorvit looked out at the road in the cold morning light, bringing his attention back to the task at hand. "But as you get closer, let them catch up. If you're too far ahead, it won't work." "Yes, I remember," Zorvit said with a nod, finally turning to meet the king's gaze. The elf was standing about 5 feet away from him, dressed in his usual finery with his hands clasped in front of him. His expression was carefully neutral, as if they were not discussing rescuing his only son, his sole heir. "I've spoken with the captain again, and we've agreed on a series of signals. So we should be able to communicate effectively from a distance even before we arrive at Drol Kugrad, and I can signal when I'm waiting for them." "Good," Reuven said, then sighed. His eyes flicked away, for once breaking his emotionless mask and briefly looking as weary and worn as Zorvit felt. "I am entrusting you fully with this, Zorvit. The balance of war and the fate of our kingdom are largely in your hands now." Zorvit wished he could respond confidently that the king had no need for concern, that he knew exactly how to bring Tegan home safely and end the conflict in one fell swoop. But even if he had truly believed it, he couldn't find the words to say it. Instead, he replied faintly, "Thank you for trusting me." "Travel safely," Reuven said with a decisive final nod. He turned and started walking back toward the castle, so Zorvit did not reply, instead turning to face his horse. Graksht had been standing silently behind him, but he could see the tall stallion's eyes following the king's as he left. Though they had been with the elves for many months now, and even traveled into human lands, Graksht still often seemed uncertain of what to make of the smaller figures. He inspected his saddlebags one last time, though he had packed them himself and checked them once before earlier in the morning. He was traveling light, bringing only his weapons and the barest camping gear he would need for the 16 days of travel it would take him to arrive at Drol Kugrad, where the warlord Hrul Bonebreaker was certainly keeping his husband captive. If he were to push himself and his horse, he could probably reach it in half that time, but he had to travel at a pace that the battalion of elves following him could maintain. If he pulled too far ahead, their whole plan would fall apart. Much as it frustrated him to have to slow himself down, it was their greatest hope of success. Even that left him feeling conflicted. The surest way of ending the conflict was to take out the warlord permanently, but Hrul Bonebreaker had raised him as his son, had been his father up until Kelvan's betrayal had revealed the truth. The thought of killing, if not his own father, the man he'd considered his father for the vast majority of his life, while his rational mind could recognize it as a necessity, his heart recoiled at even considering it.